Welcome back to Cabin Fever Astronomy. This is Diana to help you learn about what's going on in our sky here in Ohio. Today's episode is all about Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Our first section tells you how to see the subjects of today's episode. Today we are heading early into the morning. Just before sunrise at about 6 a.m., if you look towards the southeast, you will be able to see three very bright points of light very close to each other. These are not stars, but the planets Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars. They're fairly low in the horizon, so try to find a spot without any trees or buildings blocking your view of the southeast. If you're having some trouble finding the three planets, a nearby very bright constellation is Scorpius. It is known for its J-like shape. The planets will be about a hand's breadth to the left of Scorpius's tail. Our next section is Astrophysics Light, and today we're going to talk about conjunctions. In astronomy, a conjunction occurs when any two astronomical objects, such as asteroids, moons, planets, and stars, appear to be close together in the sky. And look how close Mars and Jupiter are to each other. They're practically on top of each other. We can see why if we could zoom out into outer space and look down on our solar system. We would see that Mars and Jupiter form a line with the night side of the Earth. So if we look out towards Jupiter, Mars is practically in the way there. Conjunctions happen fairly often because of the orbital plane of the solar system. If we set the sun on the center of a table and spun out all the planets onto the table, they would all stay on the surface and not dip above or below the table. This makes it much easier for things to line up in interesting ways. Now, let's take a closer look at each of these planets for our Tour of the Universe section. The highest planet in the sky will be Jupiter, the largest planet. It is known as a gas giant because of how huge it is, as well as because it is made entirely of gas and dust. We think there might be a soupy core way deep down in the middle, but we haven't found evidence of it yet. All that we can see are miles and miles and miles of clouds. This planet spins around in place very quickly. A day on Jupiter only lasts about 10 hours. But then it goes around the sun much slower than we do. It takes 12 Earth years for Jupiter to go around the sun once. Jupiter's most distinguishing feature is its Great Red Spot. This is a massive hurricane-like storm that has existed on Jupiter for as long as we've been looking. It's been around for hundreds of years and gives no sign of leaving anytime soon. It has been getting smaller over the last few months, but we don't think it's going to disappear completely. Right next to Jupiter will be the red planet Mars. It may even appear red to your eye as you look at it. Mars is known as a terrestrial or rocky planet because it has a hard surface to walk around on. A day on Mars lasts a little bit longer than here on Earth. Mars gets about 37 extra minutes per day. However, a year on Mars lasts 687 days. Mars is a really cool planet because it shares a lot of similarities to Earth. It rotates on a tilt like we do, so it has seasons like we do, and it has polar ice caps like we do. It also has tall mountains and deep trenches like we do. So it's a pretty interesting planet to go and visit. Saturn is my favorite planet because of those big, beautiful rings. All of the gas giants actually have rings, including Jupiter, but Saturn's are the biggest and brightest. Just like Jupiter, Saturn is made entirely of gas and dust, so we don't have a solid surface to stand on. A day on Saturn is a little bit longer than Jupiter at about 11 hours, but its year lasts for 29 Earth years. That means for many of you, Saturn hasn't even gone around the sun once in your life, let alone twice. For today's space robot session, we are going to take a look at a spacecraft for each of the 3 planets. Let's start with Jupiter and the Juno mission. Juno was launched back in 2011 and didn't arrive at Jupiter until 2016. This spacecraft has gotten closer to Jupiter than any other mission before it. And it was able to do that because of its very unusual orbit. It actually goes around the north and south poles of the planet. Despite being very difficult to get the spacecraft in this position, it was well worth the trouble. We now have breathtaking views of the bluish storms found in these before unseen parts of Jupiter. The Cassini mission was active for 20 years. This was quite the impressive lifespan for a spacecraft we sent to such a distant planet, Saturn. Its main job was to learn as much about Saturn as possible. In 2017, scientists actually decided to end the mission by directing the spacecraft into a dive into the clouds of Saturn. They knew the instruments wouldn't survive long, but the craft was able to get some really cool new data before we lost connection. It also took some beautiful pictures before the end of its mission. And finally, we have the new rover Perseverance. This rover is the star of the Mars 2020 mission and is set to launch in the summer of this year. Hopefully, NASA will be able to keep to its schedule and won't miss the month-long launch window. That way, it can arrive in February of 2021 to continue our research on the planet Mars. That's all we have for today. As always, if you have any questions, please ask in the comment section of our Facebook link. Have a great night and clear skies.